Hey Kia, how are you doing?
Come on, I'm good, man. I just finished my day. I'm in pre-production on a giant shark World War II movie. So I'm going from giant
Oh,
spiders to giant sharks. I'm working my way through all the terrifying creatures that I can.
wow. So another fear of the human race.
Well, I mean, I'm from Australia, so we have really big spiders and we have really big sharks. So I'm
Yeah, yeah.
we tend to
Like
make films about
mandatory,
those
right?
things. Yes, yes, exactly. If you're a filmmaker here, eventually you're going to do one of them.
Yeah, yeah, right, right, right. But the fascinating thing is that you actually said that you're actually afraid yourself of spiders, right?
Yeah, I have like pretty crippling arachnophobia. So yeah, like when I see a spider, like my first reaction is to scream like a little girl. And I just want to start crying. Like I have a visceral reaction to spiders. There's something about the eight-legged thing, I don't like it. Anything with eight legs and mandibles, I don't trust.
Right, right, right. I actually had an encounter yesterday, which is such a huge coincidence because I've seen your movie like 2 days ago, and then yesterday
Yeah.
went out for a run and I came home, and then there was like actually a spider hanging down from my hair. Like it wasn't
Ooh, no, no, no.
wasn't a big
That's no
one,
good.
but still, you
Yeah.
don't want spiders to bungee jump from your head, right? So it's like very
No.
like a moment. And then I was trying to grab the web and put it down, but it always tried to reclimb my hand.
No,
So
no, that's not okay. That's like a real 3D experience.
yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
right,
that's
right.
way too close to the eyeball. Yeah.
And it was not animatronic. So
Yeah, the
um
animatronic ones are a little bit easier to deal with. They do tend to take direction.
right, and you are in control of them, right?
I am in control. Although the wetter puppeteers used to love, like, I would get in close to check the mandibles, and without me knowing, they'd be behind it and make it move, and they'd make the man, and
No,
they'd have me screaming
seriously.
yeah, and they were counting how many times they could get me to scream, and I think it was up to like five or six. Eventually, I
Oh
wouldn't
wow.
go near, I wouldn't go near the wetter puppet until I was like, all the puppeteers have to get out of the way, like, because I knew that they were going to trick me.
Oh, that's so mean.
I loved it.
But would you say, as a director and storyteller, would you say that it's almost like crucial or necessary to be afraid of the things that you actually put in your horror films? Because I can imagine if you are not afraid of spiders, then how do you know what exactly it is that people are afraid
Yeah.
of?
I don't think it's crucial, but I think it helps. I think a lot of people have the idea of horror filmmakers that they're big and tough and scary and like they have mental problems and, like they're all
Yeah.
just serial killers. But the truth about horror filmmakers, generally, from my experience, is that they're actually scared little children in adults' bodies. And they're usually, the people who, needed to sleep with the nightlight on because they were so scared when they were kids. And so all of those things that they grew up being terrified of, usually, I mean, that stems from like an intense anxiety. So a lot of horror filmmakers actually use their own fears and their anxiety to make these films. And so, yeah, like when I was trying to think up, the scariest thing that I could possibly think of, I just couldn't think of anything scarier than a spider the size of a pit bull terrier that's going to bite you, um, and then drag you into an air conditioning duct and eat you slowly, while you're paralyzed and can't do anything about it. I just couldn't think of anything worse than that. And so that's what I made a movie about.
Right. And I mean, one character that is definitely not afraid of spiders, at least at the beginning, is Charlotte.
Yeah.
She is like she kind of reminded me of my own childhood. I'm sure that many people feel that way. Like when you start to be curious about animals and you want to understand them, and like she's feeding the spider, and she just wants to see how it hunts, how it develops, and everything. I was wondering, do you like remember like similar stuff from when you were a child? When it started to become like uh fascination how animals live and how they yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrified of spiders, but when I was in my early teens, we had this tiny little black spider that looked a lot like Sting that lived in our windowsill. And
Oh,
I developed this weird relationship with it where I would like capture flies and I'd put it in the web and I'd sit there like watching while the spider would come and grab the fly and then, you know, wrap it up in a little thing and then and devour it. I mean, actually, now that I'm saying that, that sounds pretty sick and twisted. I was like it was like Renfield from Dracula, you know, Renfield, how he's
Yeah.
feeding them. I must feed the master, you know. And I got obsessed with this spider, and it grew fat over many
Whoa.
weeks of me doing this, and then it just disappeared. I think it just got sick of all the free food. But yeah, there is a fascination to feeding animals, you know, that especially kids get into. You know, I think if you're still
Yeah.
into that when you're an adult, there's probably something wrong with you. But yeah, that was very much based on something true. And I'm terrified of spiders, but Elila Brown, who played Charlotte and who also played the young Furiosa more recently, who as
Right.
a side note, is one of the most amazing actors I've ever worked with. She's 12 years old and just beyond star power. Like, she is so talented. But she wasn't scared of spiders at all. Like, not even vaguely. So she's the sort of person who could have a tarantula just running around on her arm and she'd be giggling, you know.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, she loved spiders, and that was good for the part.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, and her talent really shines through, especially, like when we have like the more emotional stuff, because what I really like about the movie is that you actually decided to, yes, deliver all the monster action that horror fans would expect, but it's also very character driven because you focus on this family and this
Yeah,
relationship with the characters. And so we see like the relationships develop while we also see Sting developing. So, and one of the things that I actually liked was that Ethan and Charlotte are like artists. He's working on a comic and then
yeah.
like using ideas from her and stuff. And I was wondering, because he doesn't feel comfortable at first to show her where he is at with his drawings. And I was
Yeah.
wondering, as a filmmaker, at which state of production do you feel comfortable the most to share what you've been working on?
Oh, well, I mean, again, that's all very much based on real stuff. So the family in Sting is based on my family. So at the time, you know, I was
Oh, wow.
married and I
Yeah.
just had a baby with my wife, and it was like right in the middle of COVID. So we were all stuck in the house together. I'm a stepfather, so my stepdaughter was very much like Charlotte at the time. And so she's incredibly gifted as an artist. And
Mhm.
I often share my scripts and my films with her. And she's always asking to see edits before they're ready. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, no, 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 wait till it's ready. You know, like I prefer to wait until the whole thing's finished before
Yeah.
I show her, because her of all people, because she's, she was a teenager at the time. Like, more than anybody in my life, I'm nervous about showing my stuff to my stepdaughter because
Mm.
she's young and she's got a great eye, but she
Yeah,
can
yeah,
also
yeah.
be really judgmental. And I'm just like, I really want to get it right. So I don't like to show her any of my stuff before it's ready. So again, that's all just based on real stuff. But yeah, I even when I'm doing my edit, usually, my co-editor will do an assembly. I won't let producers even watch the assembly. I'm like, don't even talk to me about it until I've been able to go through and do my director's assembly. So
Wow.
I'm very controlling in that way. As an artist, I like people to see things in only the best possible way that they can.
Yeah. That is very interesting. That then how about because Ethan he's too afraid to tell Charlotte the truth about not liking the stuff with the eyes that she does.
Yeah,
Only because as a filmmaker, you like deal with many, many, many opinions because the DOP might share an opinion with you
yeah,
on might be great on the film, or the editor later on, the color grader,
yeah.
whatever. Whoever is working with you has their own ideas. And I was wondering, how do you make sure nowadays that um, you're like when you don't like something that you really say it, no matter how enthusiastic the other person feels about their ideas?
Well, usually as a director, I try to just be really honest. And if somebody gives me an
Yeah.
idea, I'm just like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to do that. It's good, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it a different way. So it's best just to like, you rip the band-aid off, don't pull it off.
Yeah.
It's best just to like be really honest. But also sometimes you get in those really awkward situations where somebody gives you an idea and you're sort of forced to go, oh yeah, that's really cool, and you just pretend like it's a cool idea, and then you walk away and you're just like, that's the fucking worst idea I've ever heard. But you don't want to tell them. And especially when it's somebody close to you, like your daughter or your wife or something, you don't want to hurt their feelings. So sometimes you lie.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what he does. He lies to her. He says he likes her idea, and he doesn't. And unfortunately, that idea was linked to her biological father. So not only is he lying about an idea that she's given him, he's lying about an idea that she's given him that's actually quite personal to her. And so, as an artist, you can really get into trouble when you're dealing with personal stuff, and personal ideas. And I had to run that gamut. In this film, like I wrote a film that was quite personal, so I had to show it to my wife and I had to show it to my stepdaughter and get their approval and
yeah.
make sure that they were okay with it. And luckily they both were fine with it. But yeah, sometimes somebody gives you a terrible idea and you just straight up lie and say that you like it, and it's never a good idea as an artist because you always run into trouble later on. So yeah.
Absolutely. Seriously, Kiah, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate talking to you and for your time. Thank you so much. And obviously, you have all the best for not only this film Sting, the German release, but also for your shark film. Very curious to see that one as well.
Yeah,
Looking for
that's a weird one. That's like a riff on the SS Indianapolis speech in Jaws. So in Australia, there was a ship that went down in 1942 called the HMAS Armidale, and so that sunk halfway between Darwin and East Timor, and
yeah.
hundreds of Australian soldiers went into the ocean and got eaten by
Wow.
sharks. And so that's what my film's about.